The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, and what I consider to be the greatest state in the union. I may get some competition from that from my guest. He's from Florida, and I'm going to introduce him in a very special way, special to me. It's the only imitation I do. How about this, the voice of the Yankees, Mr. Bob Shepard. Now batting for Toronto, number 20, Bobby Estalella, number 20. How was that, Bobby Estalella?
Brings back a lot of memories. That's pretty good.
All right. That's where you ended up your Major League Baseball career. And but we'll get to that. Let's start at the beginning. Your grandfather plays a very special part, played a very, very special part in baseball lore. Why don't you tell us about that if you know?
Is it about the song you're talking about?
The song, indeed, one of the greatest songs ever for an old baseball fan like myself, a junkie. And it was composed by Mr. Fishbaum, if I remember correctly. And your grandfather's name is in the lyrics, Bobby Estalella. And I wanted to talk about him a little bit, but more importantly, your Cuban heritage. My father, when he emigrated Europe to come to this country, couldn't get in originally. He went through Cuba, and he had, in his lifetime, nothing but wonderful things to say about the spirit of Cuba. The one thing he did was give me an appreciation for Minnie Minoso as a great ball player. And I want to ask you about what you were brought up with. You were born in the United States, but how Cuba played a part in your memories and your heritage. What was thrown at you when you were a kid?
I have a lot of memories from there, just from my father and my grandfather and my mother. They were all born there. I was actually the first generation born here in Hialeah, Miami, Florida. But they would tell me stories, and I have another grandfather and family, cousins and uncles and everybody that was in Cuba. I was never allowed to go to Cuba. In the 1960s, my grandmother was already American citizen, and she had gone to Cuba to visit family on a 2-week pass. And Fidel actually held her there for 6 years. And my grandfather a long time. And my grandfather actually had to fly down there and pay the government to get her out. So from that day forward, I was never allowed to go. They just never wanted to chance it. So I never went.
Right.
I would have loved to visit. I'd love to have gone. From the stories that I hear, it's beautiful, and my family's houses and everything, where they're at and where they come from is very nice, But yeah, I've never had a.
My father was impressed by the spirit of the people.
Sure.
And the music, and there was always, as he said, there was always a party going on somewhere, and it could be in the midst of poverty. Somebody was always man-made instruments, this, that, and the other thing, and there was always the beat. So I'm glad to have you as a guest.
I appreciate you having me. And you're absolutely right. That's how it was growing up as a kid with my grandfather. They'd always be playing dominoes. There'd always be people over and telling stories and, staying up late playing music, having a couple sodas, hanging out, and, cooking a lot of food always. So it was always like a party atmosphere. And the people were always, everybody that I always met always had nice things to say about my grandfather, even though, I never met a lot of the people and family. They would always tell me good things about my grandfather, so that was great.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful to hear. Tell me about, early on, was it your grandfather's legacy that got you into playing baseball? Did your dad bring it to you? I don't know if he played ball. What made you, as a kid, get into playing baseball?
Well, a lot of it was both influences, but first it was with my grandfather. Watching all the fan mail that he would receive at the house. He had tons of fan mail to the day he passed, even till after he passed. And at his late years, his last 5 to 10 years, he had really bad arthritis, and he couldn't sign, and he couldn't sign very well. It would give him a lot of trouble. So I would actually do the fan mail for him, and I hate to say it to a lot of people, but I was the one trying.
But eventually they got the autograph of a major leaguer, and with the same name. So they can't be all that disappointed. And you did the best you could, even in my
I did.
And that's how life is. That's how life is. You do the best you can, and you live with the results, good, bad, and indifferent.
Right, unfortunately, that's it.
Or fortunately,
right?
Depending on it all. But it gives you a certain c'est la vie attitude, if you will. Whereas, it's going to happen. You just go through it and try not to take it all that seriously.
Correct.
So tell me, youth baseball for you, what was that like? Was it an advantage having the Estalella name, or a disadvantage having the Estalella name as a player, as a kid?
As a kid, I didn't know much. I just know that people, when I was a kid, it would be like the older people would come up to me and always tell me, I saw your grandfather play, and I'm a fan, and I knew him, or they saw him play in Cuba, they saw him play when he came over, and they always had nice things to say, always great stories, and I would always listen to every story everybody ever had to say, because, I like to hear about my grandfather. But
it didn't put any pressure on you in your development.
No. I always wanted to play baseball, and whenever I wanted to play football or something else, my father, he told me, you're not allowed. You were born a baseball player's son, and that's what you're going to do. So I knew at an early age that's all I was doing. That was the only chance I had, was playing ball. So.
Missed getting injured. I'll bet you missed those aching injuries later in life where you can't walk straight and your head doesn't really fit your body anymore.
No, I'm still going through it. Yep.
Okay. Let me ask you, when did you know that you had a real good chance of making the bigs? Or at least playing professional baseball. Yeah.
I knew I was going to play at an early age. I mean, I don't like to say it, but at about 9 years old, I already knew I was going to play, and then definitely knew by the time I was 13 years old. When I was 13, I was playing summer ball with the University of Miami players. So the University of Miami had a summer league, and I was 13. I was the youngest kid on the team, and I even played on their travel USA team. So I was playing against all the stars of Mexico and all the Caribbean countries, and I was only 13 years old at the time, playing with grown men basically. So I knew that
you? Was there anything that awed you? Go back to your 13-year-old experience, and what was there any one individual that you were on the same field with that you went, whoa?
That came later in life. I was always a fan of Benito. He was my idol, Benito Santiago. And I, as a kid in Little League and growing up, I wore number 9 because that was his number when he first came up with San Diego, number 9. And I always wanted to be like him and play like him and throw from my knees like him. And I got to Philadelphia, and he was signed as the catcher. And my very first day that I walked in the clubhouse, I'm just walking in with my bags, literally. He asked me, he's like, do you want to play catch? And I don't remember saying anything. I just dropped my bag, grabbed my gloves with the same street clothes I had on, and walked down the field and said, let's go. And that was my moment. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm playing with my idol. I didn't even walk in and say hi to anybody. I dropped my bags literally in street clothes and went to play catch with him.
Oh, wow. I'm glowing for you. I mean, I've got goosebumps at that story. That's beautiful. Especially because he was your man growing up. That's terrific. Who told you were going to the big leagues? You came up from the minors with Philadelphia. How'd you get the news you were going to the bigs?
They told me when I was in Double A in '96, and I was having a really good year. I had about 23 home runs at the time, and they told me, okay, we're going to call you up. It was my birthday. They said they were going to call me up to Triple A on my birthday. And they're like, we only want you to spend a few days there, do what you got to do, but you're going to go to the big leagues. They said we were actually going to call you to the big leagues the year before, but you were only an A-ball. And we thought that you were, it was too fast to bring a guy straight up from A-ball to the big leagues. So they said, we're definitely bringing you up in a couple of weeks, so just get ready.
Wow.
So I knew at that point for sure, when I was 96, when I was in Double A, and they did. They sent me to AAA on my birthday, and 10 days later I got called up to the big leagues.
Wow. Hey, Bobby, which coach in the minors had do you credit with giving you the most, either mentally or physically? As maybe it wasn't a catching instructor per se, a batting instructor, but who was there for Bobby?
My biggest influence that I had that helped me not only with hitting but mostly with catching a lot would be Don McCormick. I don't know if you remember him, but Don McCormick, he was my manager with the Clearwater A-ball team, and he played in the big leagues. He was a backup catcher mostly for like 4 or 5 years. I think he spent in the big leagues. Not much time, but just the way he was and the way he coached me, he was a lot like my father, where he was very blunt, straight up, and he didn't put up with any stuff. He if I was doing or something wrong, he would let me know about it. And he went out of his way basically to put his arm around me every day and make sure that I did things correctly, and went out of his way to help me every day. So I credit a lot to him.
Yeah, probably the mental part more than the physical part. The way the way you said that.
Yes.
Yogi Berra had an expression where 80% of it is mental and 50%, something like that. God, I miss Yogi. Everybody misses Yogi. But the simplicity, he was quite the myth. Did you ever get to meet him?
Absolutely, of course. My time spent with the Yankees. I saw him every day in the locker room and then in the dugout. He was with us. Spring training. He was a great guy to be around. Just funny guy. What an aura, presence he had every time he came in a room. It was just everybody would stop what they're doing and listen to Yogi. He always had something nice to say.
Absolutely. I'm going to cut to the end a little bit.
Sure.
We'll get back to the middle of it. The end, your last team was Toronto. How did not being a major league player, all of a sudden, the adjustment, did they have to, the expression, they're going to tear this uniform off me to get it off me, that kind of stuff. Were you ready for retirement? Were you expecting it?
No, I was not. I was not looking forward toward retirement. Actually, my next year in 2005, I went to spring training with the Reds and had my best spring training ever. And the last day of spring training, the very last day when we make the team, and they're putting the stuff on the trucks to load up and move everything to Cincinnati, I broke my elbow, and I needed Tommy John.
Oh,
so,
Bobby.
So I had to go through that. I went through Tommy John, and then 2006 I tried to come back with the Mets way too early. It's supposed to be 18 months before I throw a ball. I was on the field at 9 months with the Mets. So I was on the field way too early, and they were pushing me. And, of course, I'm trying to get on the field, as fast as I can to play. And I probably should not have done what I did, and I blew out my shoulder doing that. So rehabbing from elbow, and then I had shoulder surgery. Rehabbing from that, I blew out my hip. So then during rehab of that, so talk about 3 blows in a row, and then the hip. Of course, I need a hip replacement, so that blew me and took me out of the game, and they told me I would never play again.
Wow.
So
I think it was Bo Jackson played with a hip replacement, if I'm not mistaken. And a guy by the name of Montefusco, the Count, was a pitcher. And if I'm not mistaken, he came back from hip surgery as well. But 3 devastating injuries. I hope that they are not pantomime, whatever I'm saying, in your thinking when you look back upon your career. I
look back and I thank God for the time in the sun that I had, and I appreciate every moment, every game. I never took a day for granted, so I can't say that I can look in the mirror and be upset, because I can't. Would I wish I had more time? Absolutely. I wasn't ready to quit or hang them up anyway. I was forced to, but I enjoyed so much of my time that I thank God for every moment, and I'm grateful. So no, I can't look back and be upset about it.
Love your attitude, Bobby. What are you doing now? What are you doing after baseball? What was the adjustment like?
Adjustment was tough because I did several things. My dad was working for a pool company, so they would come in and tear up your backyard, and then they needed landscaping. So I did opened up a landscaping company that did installments for everything, like exotic palm trees and everything. And I actually did that for a year, and then I stopped doing that, and I started doing fire academy because I wanted to go into and be a firefighter paramedic. So I was going to do that. I did the 8 months of schooling, and then I did the 6 months. 6 months into the fire school, that's when my hip started acting up, my other hip, broken hip. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't pass the physical, so I had to drop out, and I went to New York. A buddy of mine, Matt Giuliano, I played with in the minor leagues. He has Matt Giuliano's Play Like a Pro, which is an indoor batting cages and lessons, a 32,000 square foot building. So I went up there for a year in New York. I went up there for a year, and I worked with him, teaching lessons and helping kids. But I got to be honest with you, I could not take the cold weather and the snow.
That's why I moved to California. I mean, the Air Force moved me, but I grew up in New York, and when I was 20, it was the last time I lived there. I mean, went into the Air Force, stayed in California, because the cold weather in New York, people don't realize, or Chicago or Wisconsin, it's brutal.
Oh, it's absolutely, yeah.
And especially if you're recovering from something, like, I could appreciate that with your surgeries, that could not be a comfortable environment to spend winters in.
No, it was horrible, and I couldn't take it, so I ended up leaving.
Okay. Now you're raising kids. You take them to school. You're living the good life, Bobby.
I appreciate it. I mean, now I was homeschooling my 6-year-old, my youngest. I was doing that because of the pandemic, and did the computer, the viral work at home. But now we put her back in the school, doing the school transition. So we're trying to get her back in the classroom. But that's what I was part-time school teacher. But everything's going well. I mean, I can't complain. Everything has been good.
Hey, Bobby, you have been an up for my head today. These are very harrowing times. We've got a debate tonight that can change the face of America, and it's like the ice cream store for me, the candy store, this podcast. I really enjoy your company. I enjoy your spirit, and I hope to have you back if you'd like to.
Oh, I'd love to be back, and it's great talking with you. I appreciate you even giving me the opportunity to be on your show. And anytime you want to talk, or even if it's on air, off there, I mean, please give me a call. You have me. You know where I am.
I do, and I can't tell you how I appreciate that and how much I enjoyed this. I want you to have a wonderful day.
You too. I appreciate it. God bless you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon,
all right,
brother.
my friend. We'll be talking to you soon. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tycho, and the guest was Bobby Estalella. My pleasure. This was fun. Happy trails, everyone.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.